The Unbroken Place podcast with Eddy Paul Thomas is a production of Say Something Studios. Welcome back to The Unbroken Place, where it begins and ends with empathy. My name is Eddy Paul Thomas, and I am your host. We're back, Season 3. There is a lot to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to a lot of the conversations that we have for Season 3. We're going to be covering mental health, relationships, what leadership looks like in these really unstable times that we're living in. But before we step forward, I really want to take a pause and look back. Season 2 was filled with some really in-depth conversations from some quality people, Emmy Award winners, actresses, educators, mental health specialists, people who had a lot to say. And I would love to, before we jump into Season 3, really take a look back at some of the most poignant conversations we had with some of our guests, and especially when you look at some of the things that they were diving into. We're talking about leadership, health, identity, relationships, and a lot of quiet work that's often unseen when it comes to becoming more whole. So whether you've been here from the beginning or you're just now joining us, I'm really glad you're here. Let's get into it. Emmy Award-winning producer, Mona Hennein.
I think if you are part of the humanity and you love people and you see that maybe your action has hurt someone else, I think just that would change the way you think. But to drop someone before you, let's take your thinking to its ultimate. I think it's really important that we lead people to the ultimate. If you think that way, then what's the next possible conclusion?
Yeah. I think it's a wonderful concept, because for me, I told people many years ago, I've stopped debating. I don't debate, because the point of debating is to win. It's not to understand.
That's exactly right.
To solve the problem.
Right.
And so when you do that, when you have the posture of actively listening to someone, it certainly changes the type of conversation you have.
I love that. I don't debate, because the idea is not to win. The idea is to understand and to love. That's really good.
Well, thank you. I hope everybody heard that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
I mean, if we would do that with each other, I think, it goes back to your, humanity. Why don't you just understand and love? And in love, you give the truth, give truth and love. Yeah.
I think
I like that.
It's one of the things that has helped me with my clients. The idea that I am often for them the first person professionally who has given them space to speak I don't have an agenda. My job is literally to listen to you and help you overcome obstacles for you.
And you also have a very soft way. Like you do present yourself that way, as I'm here, let me listen to you. I mean, that would be a really great way for all of us to be. You have a soft way. I'm not here. I have my opinions, but I'm not here to push it on you. I'm here to understand you. I'm here to, I love that. You do have a very soft way about you.
Actress and educator, Annie Toe. It's got to be redeeming sometimes when you can just play that role, but then there's also that duality of, well, I want to represent people from my culture well.
Yeah.
Also, so it's just tell me about that that tightrope for you sometimes.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean that changes with my own identity and acceptance and how I see those roles. Because when I was younger, I was totally resistant against playing people who speak with a Chinese accent, because I'm like, well, that's not me. Because I was born here. I was born in LA. I identify more as American than Asian, or more American than Chinese. Like when I was younger and I went back to China to visit family, they all saw me as American. They were like, "Oh, she is not one of us." So, and I found that, fine. But then when I went to college in a very rural Pennsylvania town, Penn State, I got seen by the color of my skin. I got seen more Chinese than American, and I got harassed for being more Chinese than American. So then there developed like a whole identity and connection of like feeling shameful that I looked the way that I did, and then also feeling shameful that I felt shameful. It was like a very conflicting part of my identity that like people were telling me how I was looking and how I was identifying. So it was very like tumultuous time, and I actually created like a short film called American Asian to kind of wrestle with that duality. And the truth is it's somewhere in between, and it all depends on the eye of the beholder. At that time, like 7 or so years ago, I started dyeing my hair and having blonde highlights as a way to like respond to how society was seeing me. I wanted to respond to how I was seen and say like, nope, I'm American. I'm more American than Chinese. Just look at my hair. And up until recently, I was like, well, I don't want my identity to be like that. I don't want it to
Mm,
be a response. I want it to be a statement.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was how that was a whole journey. I don't think I could have gotten here without having that moment of being so resistant and defensive
That
about
makes
my
sense.
my identity. Yeah.
That makes sense. I think also having the ability to travel, like you were saying, outside of the United States context, it
Mhm.
changes a lot for you.
Yeah.
Um, I can remember I played college basketball years and years and years ago, and had the ability to travel and see all parts of the world. Especially within the states, because Charlotte, North Carolina is very different than Indianapolis, Indiana, which is where I was born and raised, which
Mhm.
is very different than, any part of California. So it's just you meet different people and you hear different expectations of what people like you are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, whoa, okay, awesome. I feel like a superhero, but then there are those who are like, oh, I feel very bad about the way that I've been portrayed in their mind
Yeah.
anyway.
It's crazy that that's like the BIPOC experience, right?
Yes.
That's like
Yeah.
what we have to deal with. It's not just who we are, but how we're seen by
Yeah.
society and the community that we're currently in.
Yeah, I told my friends when I was writing my book in 2022. This was just after George Floyd, and I had been speaking to a lot of people on different stages about how to build bridges and how to deal with biases and things of that sort. I was talking to a group of missionaries
Mm,
who were, believe it or not, dealing with that very thing. They were trying to figure out, okay, we are literally living cross culturally, but still carrying a lot of our American or Western biases. And I said, if you look at the way that I experience the world when I'm here in the States, when people say, "What are you?" it's a matter of trying to classify me. Like, okay, where are you in proximity to whiteness?
mhm.
Where do I put you? Whereas overseas, it's where's your family from? Tell me
Yeah,
about your culture. Like, what are you? When I traveled to Mexico, for instance,
yeah.
it was not, are you black? Are you mestizo? What are you? It was no. Tell me about your people, and it was like my shoulders came down from my
Yeah.
anticipation of what they were meaning, but no, it's a completely different cultural context. And they just wanted to know, who are my people? Are they from here? Are they from there? What kind of things do you eat? Because I didn't look like anyone in their community. So it's a very different experience depending on where you go.
Yeah.
Um, and
Oh
it's
my
it's
gosh.
fascinating.
Yeah, that calls to mind exactly that triggering question.
Mm,
Where
yeah.
are you from?
Yeah.
I totally got that so much as when I was younger, and I was very defensive about it. And as I got older, like very similarly, I learned to appreciate just what they're intending, which is just tell me about your family. Tell me about how they were and how you came to be, from their journey, which is so beautiful. Now I've really come to appreciate that question. And now it's helped me welcome my heritage a lot more, and it makes me very proud of who I am.
Educator, author, and TEDx speaker, Erin Jones.
And another basketball analogy. I became great at basketball not because I showed up at practice every day, but because on the off season, I was on a court shooting free throws, 50 free throws every day on the off season. That's race. If you want to get good at talking, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. And nothing comes easy. You have got to be willing to wade in and be uncomfortable. And to my Black brothers and sisters, we also have to have grace for people who are getting into the game and getting bloody and saying the wrong thing. And they've been misinformed. And we have to have grace and be willing to hold people and call them in. We got to be willing to call people in, because this is the other thing I see is I have seen white folks who want to get in and they want to understand, and they say the wrong thing, or they do the wrong thing, or they say the right thing but at the wrong time, and then we just blast them. And guess what? Just like any kid in a classroom, if you shame them in front of their peers, they are not coming back. They're not coming back. And so it's this delicate dance of, we need you in the game. We need you in the game. And we got to be able to correct you, but we have to correct people with love as well. We have to be willing to say, hey, when you said this that way, I know what your intention was, but here's how we received it. Here's how that felt. Here's a better way to say or do that thing. We got to be willing to call people in and not shame them.
I'm going to take yours and I'm going to run with my own basketball story now. When I played in high school, I had a teammate. I'm not going to name him right now, but I had a teammate who was a ferocious rebounder. I mean, the guy was only like 6'4", 6'5", but rebounded like a 6'10", 6'11" guy, just a beast on the boards. But his layups were problematic. Like his ability to shoot the layup very quickly with defense coming, he would just freeze up and it would be a thing. So I knew that when I would drive and draw the defense towards me, if I, dropped that pass off to him, there was a good chance, less than 50%, that it was going to go dink, but he'd get the rebound and we'd get another shot. But I kept giving him the opportunities, and eventually towards the end of that season, I could count on him because he had put in the work, and I'd given him the opportunity to make those mistakes in high pressure moments. And so I tell this story because, again, back when, people were interested in DEI as a conversation, it had mostly to do with not just telling, hey, majority culture, here are your mistakes and here's how you get better. It was also letting those who are in the minority, so to speak, understand that they have to make mistakes. Putting in the work is missing the layup.
Yeah.
Time and time again until you figure out your technique. And you have to be in high pressure situations where you say the wrong thing over and over again until you say, learn from it and change your technique. And you, as a member of the LGBTQ AI plus or minority class in this country, have to embrace the fact that this person is trying to put in the work. They're reading the right books. They're attending the right conferences. They're having the tough discussions, not just out in public, but at home with Uncle Bob and Aunt Susie, who are saying the wrong things, and they're standing on their own trying to deal with this. And you have to recognize in those situations that there's nothing comfortable about race, because it has been this bugaboo from the very beginning. Decolonial technologist and creator of Justice AI, Christian Ortiz. For me, I think kind of along those same lines, when I'm talking about culture change in an organization, talking about those shifts that need to be made, it goes straight to the money conversation. It goes straight to, what is my ROI? And when you do go to the ROI, it's an easy conversation for me, because I let them know, this company is not the company it was 10 years ago. People are not spending 10, 15, 20 years at a company anymore.
That's right.
The average individual coming out of college right now, and I looked at the numbers for another conversation, it's less than 2 years that people are staying in a given job. They're looking, and there are numbers of reasons, but the number one reason is culture. Harvard Business did a study based on Pew Research. The two of them came together, and I read the article, and it was saying that the number one indicator of a person's willingness to leave is the culture within the company. And it's like 67% of people. 67, not pay, not, titles, not all this other stuff that people think from yesteryear. It is culture. And so I see Justice AI being an incredible tool for companies to say, you know what? I don't trust what Eddy said. Let me try this AI thing real quick. Oh, okay. Let me call Christian Ortiz now. But the concept is, if you want to make money, if you want to make what you're doing as a company sustainable, you need to figure out how to serve your people well.
That's
You
right.
need to learn how to lead from behind, as opposed to, I look at my title and respect my authority. I think one of the key things that I say in every one of my coaching sessions is, hey, I need 10% of your ego. 10%. You have worked your ass off to get to where you are. You have been to school. You've done like 8 years of school. You've worked your way up from the bottom of the company to where you are now. You have just earned every bit of this title. But give me 10% of your ego to save your company, to save the turnover numbers, the lawsuits, everything else that we brought before. And that little bit of respecting who they are and where they came from, for some reason, disarms a lot of that pushback from the very beginning.
So good. It is so good, because you have to find ways to not alienate your audience. I initially built Justice AI for HR purposes and for that corporate realm. I spent 5 years right before I started my business, working for a credit card processing company in the South, one of the largest multi-billion-dollar credit card processing companies. And I moved up in the ranks. I started in the call center. Within a year, I was already an instructional designer, went into contracts and policy, change control. It was dream job status, right?
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, I get pigeonholed into a position with a racist boss who has a racist boss who won't let me post out of my post. And I run into all of the things that affected my mental health. I saw where HR was designed for protecting the company, not its individual. All of the things.
Say that part. Say that part one more time so people can hear it. HR is designed for who?
Protecting the company and not its people.
Yes.
And so
many don't know that.
They don't know that, and they have this open door policy, quote unquote, so that they can gather as much information and use it against you and weaponize it. Of course, they'll never tell you that, but it's framed in a way that it's what coaxes people to be able to open up in work environments. And so and it prevents you from actually taking next steps legally, which is where a lot of people don't know that they're going to be met with, where you're like, well, you went to HR and they did an investigation and now they said they didn't find anything and now you don't have a legal case, instead of just going straight to the legal opportunities. There's a lot of workarounds. So because of all of these realistic, these realities, I was like, what if we had a tool? And what if I had all I need is one. I don't need the whole pie. I need one little piece of the puzzle. What if one company was like, let's reformulate the way HR works and let's rethink the entire structure of corporate structure, and let's see how this works, right? And I thankfully have a meeting with a couple in the beginning of the year. But that's the goal. It's HR in reality they don't have an HR. HR is the all in an organization.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if an HR lead has a case of discrimination, sexual, abuse in some way, or something that they're dealing with, racism, and they don't know or have the answers? Now they can put in this entire case scenario and say, this is the person, this is their demographic, this is their life experience, this is the data that I've collected. What the hell do I do now? Yeah. And now the HR person has a tool that can help them navigate without having to unfortunately take the steps that they normally take. And they can actually build it. Maybe it's as easy as, okay, well, we need to fire the problematic person and we need to move this person into another department of their choice where they're going to flourish, they're going to thrive. And it's sometimes that easy. I mean, I'm not saying that it is always the case, because it's another firing of an individual and they don't want to ruin a life and all of these things. But, those types of toxic individuals become a cancer to these organizations because they spread person to person. And what those people take in, and the byproduct of that is that they take it out into the real world. Yeah. And so in order to make trickle-down effect change, these companies have to adopt this system in order to make this inclusive culture work better. Because think about the impact that each individual employee, no matter their race, their background, ethnicity, whatever, they feel heard, seen, they're treated with respect. They're now getting paid what they should be getting paid. They are now contributing in ways into the company that they never were before. What does that do to your morale, to your self-esteem, to the way you treat others outside of the workplace, to the life change that it brings for you out in the real world? And so this is how, in my head, in my framework, the change was going to happen. It was going to not be overnight, but it was going to be over time. Yeah. And when we have these conversations of what reality looks like, it just takes the courageous decision-making of the right people in these organizations to light the fire and start the change.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's always a difficult process when you are trying to deconstruct something while leaving the good parts in place.
Yes.
It's a very difficult job, but there's some very skilled people like yourself who make it a lot easier with your tool. Don't go anywhere. The Unbroken Place will be back in just a moment. What if the clarity you've been searching for isn't out there, but already within you? I'm Eddy Paul Thomas, life and leadership coach. I work with purpose-driven people who are ready to lead boldly, live intentionally, and grow from the inside out. Whether you're at a crossroads or leveling up, coaching can help you move with focus, confidence, and wisdom. This is your time. Visit onsecondthoughtstudio.com to get started. At the Say Something Studios division of Elevate One Consulting, we don't just build websites, we craft unforgettable digital experiences. Imagine a place where design, development, UX, SEO, and management harmonize to elevate your brand to unprecedented exposure. A place where your website is not just seen, but felt, experienced, and remembered. Our expert team, equipped with unparalleled marketing insight, turns the everyday task of website design and management into a seamless, empowering journey. With Elevate One, you're not just launching a website. You're embarking on a transformative business adventure. We meticulously design every aspect, from intuitive navigation to stunning graphics, ensuring your digital space authentically represents your business ethos. Ready to transform your online presence into a thriving digital masterpiece? Visit us now at www.elevateoneconsulting.com and start your journey to digital excellence. Elevate One Consulting. Innovate, grow, elevate. Imagine a place where the untold stories of Black missionaries are amplified, honored, and celebrated. A place that bridges the legacy of the people of the way with the powerful missions work of today's African diaspora. Welcome to the Black Missions Museum, a digital project dedicated to preserving the voices, culture, and legacy of Black missionaries across the globe. But we need your help to bring this vision to life. Your support makes a difference. Join us in this mission by donating today. Just click the link in the show notes to give and be a part of history. Together, we can inspire future generations and keep the legacy alive. And we're back. Educator and speaker, Dr. Shawn Wooden. I'm just wondering, as you sit in your arena as a principal, you see these kids who are more knowledgeable about the things that are going on in the world. What does that look like from day to day in an educational environment?
Eddie, that's a great question. I think it varies from place to place, but there's a few things that are, I would say, that as across my network, as I connect with other educators through many different, whether it's through leadership associations, through professional networks, through Purdue, through my educational networks as well, like graduate education. There are some common bonds, and so there's a myth. So I'll start with what it isn't. There's a myth that, okay, hey, you educators are indoctrinating. Yeah, you're getting kids to do what you believe, what you want them to do politically, and the kind of the funny meme or the funny joke is, if I could indoctrinate kids, I'd get them to flush the toilet. I'd get them to wash their hands. I'd get them to put their phones in the lockers and leave them there. Like that's those bigger ideas of what to think and what to believe are so far-reaching. So the environment right now is helping kids discern in a place where they are being bombarded.
Mm-hmm.
The cool part about growing up in the 80s and 90s like we did, Eddie, was we got on the bus, we got in your parents' car, you went to school, you dealt with school at school. Then you and I, we stayed after. We were doing our workouts, we were doing our sports, or we were in our clubs. And then we got to go home and be with family, or go and worship, or go and connect with. I couldn't wait to get my homework done because the guys said we were meeting at 5:30 at the half court around the corner, and that's where I was going to be because I'd been talking trash on the bus, so I had to go back that up, right? So it was that kind of environment where you could turn it on and off. At this stage, we're 15 years into, or maybe 13 if you count social media really being super expanded into 24/7 bombardment. How to help kids understand how to turn that off, how to not put their self-worth, their all in all into that realm.
Right.
There's something to be said about the social engagement. When I was in front of you, or we were in front of our peers, there were certain things that gave you pause because I don't know, I was saying, like we said on the east side, we were in jab range, right? You had to be, you couldn't go. I think about the times we'd be at the CORAC at Purdue, and the football players would come in and want to come ball, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna block out a little differently with this offensive lineman that's down here on the block than I am with the guy that's my size.
Yeah.
And that in-person interaction teaches you, without knowing you're teaching, how to interact in a way. Whereas online, trying to help kids understand, like, just because you've got that distance, that digital distance, doesn't mean that it's okay to treat somebody poorly, that it's okay to talk trash and say it to try to get some laughs or do a post, helping them understand that digital, we call it digital literacy, that digital understanding, just having that common sense, because there is no filter and often there is no supervision. So how do you How do you, so helping kids navigate that in addition to all those things that they still have to learn. Then you throw in the last 18 to 36 months, AI. You throw in um,
Right.
all the technologies like nonstop, like hooked, and not just the AI on the output side for education, where, hey, I've got a question. I missed my notes. Let me go get notes through AI. Not on that side of it. On the, hey, AI is tracking you so that your interests make you want to draw you in more to this platform, whatever
Right.
this platform is, and it
Right.
connects to the things that you've watched more and more, and it sucks you in even more. And the kids without the frontal lobe development don't even realize it.
10-time Emmy award-winning television journalist Emily Longnecker. Just in terms of journalists, what is it about you that engenders trust for people? Because that's unique and that's very different from other journalists out there.
I mean, I just think that I try and bring, my authentic self to the table. Like, I think people can spot when you're faking it. And I think you just have to be yourself. And I mean, I guess thank God that being myself has worked out. Who else are you going to be though, right? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
just I think people can sense when you're faking it. And I guess that I try and approach it with authenticity and decency and honesty and ask. I always say, like, I'm not a gotcha reporter. I'm not here to ask a gotcha question. Like, a lot of times
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand what's going on. Just tell me what's going on. That's what I want to know. Can you give me the facts, just the facts kind of thing. So as to the awards, it's nice to be recognized for your hard work. It is, because there's a lot of hours that go into it and a lot of hours off the clock that go into it.
Right.
So many hours off the clock that go into it. You're just never, like, a good journalist, a good reporter is never not thinking or not noticing something or writing something down for maybe let me check on that later or whatever. So it's nice to be recognized, for a lot of hard work. Missed a lot of holidays with my family. All journalists have. I mean, many people have, right? If you're in this industry, it's a grind. It is a grind, and it's more of a grind than it has ever been. I think because of the 24-hour news cycle, and now there's streaming options, and there's a lot to do. There's a lot of audiences to feed, right? And thank God. I mean, it's we're transitioning and transforming and evolving, and I think that's really important. I will say it's uncomfortable sometimes to get an award that involved, like, a story that you told that involved someone else's tragedy. So I always, and so I always have a little bit of a, like, when I've won those, I just, it's hard. You don't want to shout it from the rooftop because, like, you got this award because, like, it was a story about someone else's loss. And so, or someone else's trauma. So I, like I won a group of us won 2 Emmys for the coverage of the Delphi murder trials, which involved the murder of these 2 young girls in Delphi, Indiana, Libby German and Abigail Williams. And I didn't want to post it on LinkedIn or talk about it too much, just because that was on my mind. That was such a tragedy for those 2 families and a community, and just, it was god awful for them. And I mean, and we took pictures and celebrated, right, the fact that, like, okay, we did a lot of hard work on this and wanted to make sure people knew what was going on during that trial. But yeah, there's a little something when you get something, get recognized for work that involved something terrible.
Yeah.
There's just you have to strike a certain tone with it and remember really why you're there in the first place.
Yeah. I can certainly see that. I think it was really weird for me during COVID to be recognized for doing some of the peace work and the racial reconciliation work that I was doing during that time, it's like thank you. There's 300,000 of us who are all trying to do this work. I just happen to have the right microphone at the right time. It was kind of that similar chord where this is not fun. I thank you for the recognition, but this is not a fun topic. This is a grind, and I can certainly appreciate the need for the tone and perspective when being recognized for that kind of thing. Educator, former pastor, and host of the Dig New Streams podcast, Dave Capozzi.
People in the suburbs are disconnected from the issue, but they care about it, right? So like we're humans. This is why we give back. We care. We care about each other. We care about what we hear. We care about the stories that are told. And I do think that what I've seen work, especially in institutions where faith is a component, because faith seems to drive people to want to do more in their community and to do good to their fellow human being. When they can connect with a story, with a person, with a concept that connects with their values, they're likely to give even in a sustaining way. That's been my experience. But my generation is kind of like, screw you. I don't want anything to do with, I'm just trying to raise my family. And I feel under attack. I feel like I can barely do that well enough. And a lot of that I do think comes from being jaded about churches demanding 10% and then people feeling like it's not being used in ways that they would want. So there's just again, it always does go back to distrust. But what I've seen work is when people feel connected and they maybe know someone that might be like, oh, I didn't realize that they might have been going through that too. Then that sort of elicits some compassionate response, often some dollars.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. I think, when people are interested, and this is the wonderful part of being able to consult with organizations and they want to do something like this. The idea is to form partnerships easily. That's number one. Form partnerships with people who are already doing the work in the community, wherever it is. You don't need to be the expert. You don't need to start your own nonprofit. Find people who are already doing the work and help them become the hands and feet for their organization.
Yes.
I have a friend right now. She's probably going to hate that I say this, but my friend Mona in Indianapolis is doing work for Habitat for Humanity. Has been doing it for years, and to see the pictures that she puts up on social media, it just it's making a difference. So connecting with your friends who are doing these things, I may not know how to measure, twice and cut once or do anything else with regard to the house. But you know what I can do? I can go and pick up some wood. I can help you guys, bring stuff into the house as you're building it. I can bring everybody food. I can, they're just connecting with people who are doing those things in your community are so important. I think the second thing, Dave, and I don't think there's any particular order to this, but the second is figuring out where your talents are. What do you have a passion for?
Yeah.
There is no shortage of children who need mentoring.
Right.
No shortage. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in a school somewhere or in a church or in a program. It could be in your neighborhood. Well, hopefully, people in your neighborhood, but there are tons of kids who need mentoring or even tutoring. So it's not necessarily the need to go drive somewhere or go spend an hour or two somewhere else. It could be in your own neighborhood.
Yes.
But those are like the first two that come to mind.
Yeah.
When it comes to right where you are kind of stuff.
That makes so much sense to me. I mean, when I was in community organizing, all we ever talked about was getting people to connect with their self-interest and not being sort of ashamed of having a self-interest. You want something better for yourself. Likely that affects other people too. And so that's how community organizing is similar to marketing because it's basically like human psychology. It's getting in touch with the people and what's their motivation. And from my perspective, when someone feels impacted by an issue whatever that is, they're going to either give of their money or their time. And so if you're a person who is involved in an organization that's trying to do that, then your job, if people are questioning what you're doing with your resources or what they give you, isn't to be defensive as much as it is to help the person, then help that person see how what you are spending your resources that they give is connecting with their self-interest. And I just think that that's harder and harder. I will say personally, I find it hard to give to charities nowadays because I care about systems change, and a lot of charities are focused on individual needs being met. Yeah. And I have a hard time thinking about this because the way our society is set up is it's either a government entity or it's a corporation or you got a nonprofit, which we've all sort of understood that there's like a nonprofit, like a, what do you call it? There's like corporate greed, and it's happening in nonprofit too because of this lack that we feel. And I wonder if there was more of an abundance of giving, if there would be that same kind of competition or, I think a lot of people, what it comes down to, including myself, are jaded. And if I'm going to, personally, the way I am, if I care about an issue, I'm going to either speak on it or do something about it. It's unlikely for me that money's going to leave to go do something. It's very unlikely.
Yeah. I think, just to, and not to beat up on nonprofits, because I love nonprofits.
True.
Yeah.
Same.
There.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. The talents that sit at nonprofits, these people could be making 3 to 4 times the money that they're making.
No question.
And
then people that know about their salaries complain that they're making like $100K. It's like, what do you want? They gotta live too, right?
Right. Exactly. The Unbroken Place podcast is presented by Eddy Paul Thomas, LLC, and sponsored by Elevate One Consulting and OK on Second Thought Coaching. The show is produced by Say Something Studios. Learn more about our sponsors and producer in the show notes. The show's music is performed by Kesta. Thank you for being a part of the Unbroken Place podcast community. Look for an ongoing conversation on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to sign up for our newsletter called Things I'm Rethinking at eddypaulthomas.com. Until next time, one love.